You need Daniel. Tonight, Danny, would you like to lead us, please?
Yes.
Danny Sandoval, Commissioner.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Nancy Levy, and we'll do roll call. Matthew Hargrove.
Present.
Danny Sandoval.
Present.
Daniel Clayton.
Here.
Elizabeth Esquivel.
Here.
Did I say it correctly? Good. Okay, we have a quorum. Everybody's here. Oh, wonderful. Say present. And Michael Folk is not here. I want to be complete. I want to be official, though. Aruj Ahmad? Okay. We have a quorum. Wonderful.
Nancy, we'll have the clerk do roll call.
Okay. I told you this is my first time, you know? Yeah. Okay, all right. Go for it.
Chair Greg Price. Vice Chairperson Nancy Levy.
Present.
Commissioner Matthew Hargrove.
Present.
Commissioner Danny Sandoval.
Here.
Alternate Commissioner Daniel Clayton.
Present.
Commissioner Aruj Ahmad.
Present.
Commissioner Elizabeth Munguia Esquivel.
Present.
Commissioner Michael Folk. We have a quorum.
Wonderful. Thank you. Well, good evening and welcome to today's June 6th meeting of the Commission, Parks, Recreation, and Intergenerational. And tonight's agenda is available on the counter along with the request to speak cards. So we will do the presentations first. Presentation by the public on matters not on the agenda within the jurisdiction of this commission. The commission is prohibited by law from discussing issues not on the agenda brought to them at this time. So let's go with any new commissioner communications. I think I need Cindy up here with me.
You need to make item 1A as an actual standalone item. Is there
Okay.
anybody from the public? So you need to actually request if there's anyone in the public
Okay.
that wishes to make a presentation. You've not received any cards. You can make that statement. However, you should still ask the public if there's anyone that wishes to address the public,
Thank
and then
you.
they should fill out a card.
Would anybody like to speak tonight? We're all good? Okay. And commission communications? Anybody from any of our committees? Okay. Jen Hall, who is the Recreation Coordinator for ASES Kid Zone and Club West Year in Review. Welcome, Jen. Hi.
Thank you for having me. So today I'm going to talk to you about our Digital Club West year in review. Better? All right. And so I'm going to talk to you about the year in review with our Kids Zone Club West after-school programming. And we are going to go from here. I did it. I already did it. I know, you warned me. Thank Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I tried all the buttons. All right. Our after-school program is the ACES grant, which is after-school education and safety. And we partner with the Washington Unified School District at 5 qualifying sites. And our sites are Riverbank, Elkhorn, Westfield, Westmore Oaks, and Stonegate. Our Kids Zone program is kindergarten through 5th grade, and our Club West program is 6th through 8th grades. We just finished the school year, and we had 563 students enrolled in our program. This is a tentative day schedule. Usually, depending on the day, we go after the bell rings until 6 p.m. daily. So if they have minimum days, then we have longer days with them. But our typical day starts when the kids get out of school. We have supper provided by Washington Unified Food Service. We do bathroom breaks, and then we go straight into recreation. We do academics and enrichment activities with them. We have homework time. We usually have additional time for academics or enrichment activities, and then we condense and have an additional snack also provided by Washington Unified. This year we did our 6th annual Kids Zone and Club West art show that we display at our gallery at the community center, and this year's theme for our art show was Finding Me, and it was a Finding Dory, Finding Nemo theme where they did art on different themes or ideas based off of that theme. We also have a presentation at the community center where we do an art show, and we invite all the winners and the parents and anybody else that wants to come, and we recognize them. They get a bag full of art supplies so they continue with their art. And it's always a really good time. And last year's was in November, and we have one scheduled for next November. Our enrichment providers this year were ATA Karate, Coast to Coast Soccer, Firefly Art, and 916 Inc. that we provided through the district. They are brought into the program to do these additional activities, enrichments. We also do clubs. Typically on Fridays, they do clubs, and they are 5 weeks long, and the kids get to get a list of clubs that our staff provide based off of their interests and what they want to share, their passions that they are really interested in and want to share with the kids. And some examples were community heroes, art, costume making, nature, farming. We did mystery theater. The list is endless. We usually have anywhere from 6 to 12 clubs per site, and we do 4 different club sessions throughout the school year. Club West is our older group, and we have a Club West committee, and our Club West committee help run their junior leaders in training, and they help run the Club West facility. They do a reward system with their fellow peers, and this year they went to Peak Adventures and did a ropes course and got to do all sorts of leadership activities. They also are involved in the Bridge program, so they go to our K through 5 programs and do reading and homework help and different activities, art activities with the younger kids. And then in addition to Club West, we also do Club West dances. We have 4 a year that happen either here or next door, and we have one that happens at Club West at 1125 Riverbank Road at our teen center. And those are our 4 dances. We also do a AAA day where it's an annual incentive celebration that they get to do at site, and they earn it on the 3 activities. It's academics, attendance, and attitude. So they earn it by getting 80% of their stamps during a section of time in the spring to participate in these activities or to have extra time to participate in the activities. And this is some of the things that they did this year. They did a carnival. One of them did a superhero in training ropes course kind of action-adventure event at their site. And that is it. Thanks for having me.
Does anybody have any
Anybody have any
questions for
questions?
Jen?
It's a great job.
Thanks.
It's wonderful. You're doing a great service for the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we need an approval of the minutes of the April 4th, 2017.
So moved. Second.
Approved, thank you. Oh, Matthew Hardgrove? Danny, second, thank you. Okay. It is, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, next on our agenda is the consideration of the age-friendly action plan. And it is truly, I'm very proud to be the commissioner from the Parks, Recreation, and Intergenerational Commission that represents the Age-Friendly Advisory Committee. And it's my honor tonight to present to you John Robinson, who is the Deputy City Manager for the City of West Sacramento. And tonight, John is presenting the Age-Friendly Action Plan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I know part of the purview of this commission is intergenerational issues, so it's not news to you that the population of folks over 65 in the community and statewide and nationwide and in most of the industrialized world is growing. And cities that want to retain the trust of their constituencies need to plan for that because it's going to have huge effects on all aspects of city life. Older residents, as you know, have the same wants and needs as anyone else, but a lot of times they need to achieve those through different means, and that's part of the planning process that needs to happen. The City Council has recognized that trend, and in 2015, they chose to join the AARP Network of Age-Friendly Communities, which is a nationwide organization that's an affiliate of the World Health Organization, and their basic focus is to work with cities and help them plan for the aging of their population to make the community more livable for their older residents and by extension then for everybody. So the Network of Age-Friendly Communities has over 100 affiliates nationwide. The city of West Sacramento was one of the first in California, though, so that was exciting. The program is essentially a 5-year cycle. You have 2 years from the time you become a member. You have 2 years to develop your plan. We're sort of ending we're at the end of those 2 years now, so we're almost ready to present a plan to the council. After that, you have 3 years of implementation, and then to remain a member of the network, you have to reassess and kind of redo your goals and continue working towards them. So we're planning, we have a draft plan that I'm here to talk about today. We're planning to take that through to every commission, and then that will go on to the city council. When the council first embarked on this process, though, we've been working under the guidance of an age-friendly advisory committee that is composed of representatives from all of the commissions, including Vice Chairperson Levy, and Mr. Clayton has attended a number of meetings. And really the point there, that group is chaired by Mayor Pro Tem Johannesson and Councilmember Sandine co-chair that. And the point of that group is really to move beyond just individual projects and get all the commissions focused on age-friendly as an issue that they use as a lens to look at all the work that you do. And I think, I'll talk in our presentation, but I think this commission in particular has a lot of relevance to that goal. During the process of working on the plan, both the City Council and AARP expect us to do a significant amount of community outreach so that the plan reflects the actual goals of community members. So to that end, we've done a bunch of different things, and this meeting is actually a part of that. But AARP sponsored a statistically valid mail survey that they did. So that went out to, I don't remember the total number that they sent, but they received 400 surveys back, so that became a valid way to extrapolate kind of what the whole community wants. And then in addition to that, we've done a number of different things trying to get at different subpopulations. So we had a survey that we did that was online. We had a survey that was by phone for folks that maybe couldn't get online. We did some creative things, such as we had a survey that went on the Meals on Wheels lunches and were given back manually, and we took track of those. And then we've done a couple of kind of traditional town hall meetings as well, in addition to 12, well, it'll be 12 by the time we get to the council, age-friendly advisory committee meetings, and then 6 advisory commission meetings. So we think, looking at all those, by the time this is done, we will have touched between 400 and 700 people, depending on how many folks participate in multiple surveys. It's a minimum of 400, and it could be up to 700 people, which will be really one of the more inclusive outreach efforts that's been done on any project at the city. So the key issues that folks identified in the survey instruments that were relevant, mostly relevant to this commission, were bikes and trails and mobility, which I know is in your purview, and they mentioned recreational programs and events a lot of different times. And I really want to take a second for, a shout out for Connie and Christine and the park staff here, because really in looking at the programs that folks were referencing and I've looked at dozens of these other plans, many of the programs and the projects that other jurisdictions are sort of aspiring to do within the 5-year span of their plan, we're already doing. So, in terms of the stuff they're doing, I've listed in the report, and you're already aware, but, Christine gave me a rundown of an average year, which I'll just list, included 11 special events, 600 exercise classes, 300 specialty classes, 24 shopping shuttle trips, which the seniors have specifically indicated, many of them, that's a big part of what allows them to age in their homes, is the ability to get out and shop and come back without having to drive. 100 community center shuttle trips. So the Parks Department's going out of its way to not just have the programming, but to get people to that programming, which is huge. 20 staff trips, 20 staff chaperone trips, not sending the staff on trips, although that would be a good thing too. 1,000 hours of information services and 1,785 open lounge hours at the senior center. So, I think the Parks Department deserves a huge recognition for what we're already doing, and we're hoping to build on that as part of this plan. And all that work in terms of older folks, what that becomes is kind of a bulwark against the kind of hazards that older people face in terms of their health. So social isolation and a sedentary lifestyle and the mobility challenges, a lot of the things that the Parks Department does and that your work kind of oversees goes straight to the heart of protecting seniors from those things that are damaging to their health. So by way of recommendations in the plan, we've got kind of the continuation and hopefully the expansion of the parks programs that I mentioned. There's going to be an addition to the bikes, trails, and pedestrian master plan that'll deal with senior mobility. So there'll be kind of a safe routes for seniors piece where we're going to have a consultant help us analyze where seniors are and where they're trying to get on a pedestrian basis, and try and look at the intersections in between there and make sure those are as safe as we can get them. There's work that's going to happen from the Public Works Department on a mobility action plan, so looking at some alternatives for transportation, getting folks around. And some of the key destinations for those trips will be parks and recreation programs. We're also looking at partnerships to improve community health. I was just meeting with Kaiser today. We've got some other meetings that we're looking at, trying to look for partners along with us and AARP to maybe make more classes available, more public health events, things like that would benefit seniors. And then we've also got computer classes, and we're just getting ready to advertise the first round of those, where people will learn, how to take advantage of their computers better, and then also in this particular case, how to avail themselves of the smartphone technology. Because a lot of folks older folks will have the phones, their children will give them to them, or they'll buy them, and they don't understand all the features. So there are actually classes that are put on from an entity of the state that will help people learn how to do that. So that's just some of the things. We're here to get your input on the plans, so I'm here to answer any questions and listen to your comments.
Who would like to start first? Asking John?
I have a question. So as someone who hasn't seen the plan before, I really, really appreciate how detail-oriented it is and how easy it is to read for someone who hasn't seen it before. So I think that's really important, and I appreciate the work that you guys did to make it so easy to read.
Thanks.
I do have a question in terms of the outreach, and I'm not sure if I missed it going through the papers, but I'm wondering how many senior housing apartments are in West Sacramento.
Ooh, how many there are? I do not know the answer to that off the top of my head. I mean, we did go to one of the outreach events was at Market Retail Manor, which is one of the major ones. But I don't know the answer off the top of my head.
Okay. And I'm hoping that in future outreaches that get done, if those places can be identified as a place to solicit feedback from information you guys are trying to seek.
Absolutely.
Another question, sorry. I take a lot of interest in this. I actually just moved my mom from her hometown, our hometown, to West Sacramento, and so I am looking at all of the new changes that are going to be happening to help make West Sacramento a more age-friendly community. So another question I have is, for the pilot program, do you guys know how long you guys want to have the pilot program in terms of the shuttle that goes from here to downtown? Or what the thought process is for how long that would be?
Gosh, these are great questions. I'm sorry, I do not know the answer to that one either, but I'll get back to staff. We'll get that communicated back to you.
And I guess the last point I'd like to make is I appreciate that you guys, under item 6 for the broadband expansion pilot program, that you guys have identified in number 5, the economic challenges for broadband adoption. I think that's really key when it comes to trying to expand broadband, is really first identifying if it's going to be affordable for seniors to have.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I got some questions.
Go ahead, Dana.
So are we actually going all the way down to the age of 45 or 50? Because I've noticed throughout this, we've switched, it starts maybe 60, 45, 50. And what age are we actually going down to or up to?
That's a really good point. It kind of depends on which source you're reading. AARP chose 45 for the survey that they did. In certain other instances, you'll see quoted, we've used 55, we've used 65. It kind of depends on where the statistics are that you're using. So it's easier sometimes to get data on folks that are 65 and over. So I think we're trying to stay away from an official, number. I think 45 is the lowest number that we've used
Yeah,
in terms of
here,
what an older adult is. But we're trying to not have there be a specific threshold. But 45 is kind of the bottom end.
Okay. The newsletter, I noticed that you brought that one up. Is there a way to maybe incorporate that newsletter with maybe a little bit on the senior letter too? Because I noticed we have like a senior letter when you go into, that I'll pick up and I'll read it. But we used to have like a newsletter within the water sewer bill, which we eliminated it. And then we actually had a senior committee that met during the day. And that's why, this one here took the place of that one. But I think that senior one actually was at one of the senior centers, which the seniors probably felt a little bit more like they could go to it, where we don't see too many seniors here per se. But I was wondering if we can maybe get some, I don't know how the senior letter goes, but maybe put some city things in there that might pertain to the seniors.
When you say senior letter, I'm not sure what that.
Well, I know when I go over there, I think they got like a monthly or quarterly letter that they kind of give out for the seniors. And it's probably not coming from the city of West Sac, I would assume.
Yeah, well, are you talking about the senior center or the
Yes.
library?
No, the senior center.
Yeah, I think they do have an active aging newsletter that comes out. So this would be, what we're talking about is kind of in parallel with that, because this would be kind of going back to what City Lights was, but targeting just older folks that opt into that list. Because one of the pieces of feedback that we've gotten from older residents is that they really like the paper version of iLights, which we stopped doing because it was a huge expense to mail that out to thousands of residents, and we were seeing them, looking like they were not being read particularly well. But then when we stopped doing it entirely, that was probably a bad idea. We probably should have figured out who needed it and continued doing that. So that's what we're talking about, is having a quarterly newsletter that would essentially be a synopsis of what you might have seen, kind of the top stories from that quarter's city highlights, and putting that into a paper form and mailing it to older residents.
Yeah, I was thinking of more having it in conjunction with rather than parallel with.
Well, we could. I don't want to try and subsume their material, because I
I'm
think
just saying
their
that was just
newsletter
a
will have
comment.
specific parks stuff, which we want to have some of that, but we'd also want to have just other news about the city. So we try and do it, so it wouldn't be confusing, though. I think that the point's well taken.
And the last thing is, we have another part there, a walkable community.
Yeah.
Maybe we could get something where we could take them down to the rec center and have them maybe go, use that area for a walkable until we actually get maybe some of the more sidewalks in some of the places, depending on some of the areas. Just another comment.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you, Commissioner. Anyone else have, yes, Commissioner?
Yes, another question that came to mind, as I mentioned that I had just moved my mom over here, and I've been trying to figure out how to navigate having a new person that just moved here to West Sacramento, figure out where to find the resources, and having things like the Senior Resource Fair is absolutely amazing and a good opportunity for individuals to start learning. I'm wondering, do you guys have anything in mind for the plan on how to attract new residents?
How to attract
New
new residents to the community? Well, I think not directly, not in terms of like a marketing approach, but I think a lot of the things that we're talking about here kind of get to the same place, because to the extent we make the community more livable and people see and hear about the things that we're doing, we have trails and it's already happening. And that's part of, when we have a new development and we publicize that, you hear about that and you tell people and that it all goes to marketing the city. So we don't have a specific marketing plan designed to attract people, but I think you get to a similar place just by making the community awesome, and then people hear about it and they want to be here.
Sorry, so maybe I should have clarified my question a little better. I think what I'm trying to ask is that if there's a way to find out how many seniors are coming in, to identify new seniors that are coming in, to see if they are interested in perhaps signing up for a newsletter or engaging in volunteer activities.
That's a really good point. I missed that. Thank you. Yeah, we don't have anything like that in mind, but that's a really good idea. I'll write that down.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Oh, I just want to,
Commissioner
I live pretty close by here, and there's a lot of senior citizens that live in my neighborhood. They're all like original residents from the 1950s. And one thing that stood out to me a lot was the shuttle and making it more walkable. I have had a neighbor who I found who's very elderly. He eventually passed away, but I found him stooped over in his front yard. He was carrying heavy groceries and he had fallen. There was no one to help him, So I think he'd gone to the store in his car, but when he was walking out, obviously he had a mishap. I've had Ray, one of my neighbors, he broke a leg. He just tried to take a bike to Safeway, and we live pretty close to Safeway. But I think for the benefit of the entire community, like you said, I think making the sidewalks and the kind of the jaunt over to the store more safer. We live in a Safeway, and the traffic situation there is not very walking friendly for anyone, whether they're 5 or 55. So I think just emphasizing that as something that I've seen over the course of 7 years would be that if we can make, through traffic circles or something, I know that I've kind of scanned the plan, it's very thorough, and I commend you for that. I think it's wonderful, and like you said, the fallout will be that if the community is more appealing for senior citizens, it's for everyone else too, even for my kids who are 3 and 4, So, but I just want to emphasize that point, I think for people like my in-laws who, are getting to an age where they don't drive anymore, walking will be important, or shuttles will be important. And I think kind of making sure that the streets, the sidewalks are safe also is a good way to kind of, just show them that this is West Sacramento cares about you.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Ahmad. Anyone else? John, as always, thank you.
Thanks.
It is. Next on the regular agenda is the consideration of public memorial dedication policy. Tracy Michael,
Yes, thank you.
who is our business manager.
Good
Welcome.
evening, Commission members. Pleased to be sharing information with you tonight regarding a new public memorial dedication policy for the city. Over the past few years, we have been approached a number of times to consider approached by both public and community organizations to consider memorial dedication plaques in various public and quasi-public places. A very recent example was just a few months ago with the Ross P. Yanker dedication plaque that was approved by City Council for installation in the aquatics area of the West Sacramento Recreation Center. And this is an example of a quasi-public location because the city does run the rec center, but membership fee is required to access the area. But Mr. Yanker was well known in the community and made an impact on many lives through his long-standing aquatics coaching and training programs. And so, we have a formal policy in place for the naming of parks. We have really just been approaching memorial dedications on a case-by-case basis without having a policy for that specific action. So we've worked closely with the city clerk and the assistant city attorney to develop the draft policy that's included as attachment 1 in your staff report. And so highlights of the policy include a basic requirement that nominations made provide a positive experience or benefit for the public. The eligible areas for memorial dedication include areas of public facilities, so that would be like our civic center, our community center, our recreation center, trails and parks, and also could be adjacent to trees or benches in public spaces. Nominations must meet at least one of the following criteria: either geographic names descriptive of the location or significant natural features in or near the location, names that preserve the history of West Sacramento, or names of individuals, families, or organizations that have made a significant impact in the community. Applications for the dedications would be managed by the Parks and Recreation Department. If deemed suitable by the director, they would then come to this commission for consideration and approval. The city would maintain the dedication in the selected location unless the city determines removal or relocation was necessary. And if approved by the commission, the applicant would be responsible for all costs associated with the acquisition or production of the actual plaque, as well as any of the other materials that might be needed in the case of a bench or a tree, for the acquisition cost, the installation cost, and also the long-term maintenance of the cost. In the event that we need to remove the dedication without a relocation, we would return any of the material to the applicant. And if there's a circumstance where we could no longer maintain the dedication due to higher maintenance costs than originally estimated, significant or repetitive damage to the dedication, or for other reasons, like with trees, once they become very mature, you can run into some issues there, then we would notify the applicant, and they would have the opportunity to reapply in perhaps a different location. We would maintain a current listing of all dedications and their locations, so that way we could help manage potential saturation issues if we have a lot of interest in plaques going into a certain location. We want to try to manage that. And then for whatever reason, if the applicant's proposal is not approved by the commission, the applicant, as the policy is currently written, would have the ability to go to city council for an appeal, and the decision of the city council would be final. So that's the draft policy in summary. Any questions?
Commissioner Hargrove?
I think it's a good plan. I've been involved in, I think, 3 different dedications over the last 20 years. Not having a set city policy has caused some issues. And I think that having something like this is smart, and some forethought will give folks the ability to look ahead, start planning, and when something comes up, will allow the city to be able to, I think, work with those groups a little bit better. So I'm glad that the staff has put some thought into this, and it sounds like you have some off-ramps where they're needed and have thought through, maintenance issues is always huge, and vandalism is a huge thing. I know the one memorial I worked on, the first one, it's a constant source of vandalism, and how do you deal with that, especially 20 years on? So I think the city keeping a list and having a clear, concise policy with some ifs, ands, and buts in there is a very good thing. So thank you for bringing this forward.
Commissioner Escobar.
Will the department be promoting this new dedication application? Or is it just you guys are going to wait for people to approach you and now there'll be a set policy standard?
I'm going to answer that, but Cindy, feel free to chime in if there's any other information I share. I don't think our intention was to actively promote it, but we will provide information. Eventually, we'll get information on our website so that people who are interested can find that information and contact us. The intent was to provide a consistent process, a transparent process, but I don't think we're going to actively promote this. Okay.
I think that's the right call.
I have a question. This is for individual memorials. Has anybody possibly thought about doing for groups for memorials, such as veterans or groups of that nature?
Well, I can only speak to the time that I've been at the city. I don't think we've been approached by a group to do a group.
You're going to
memorial.
be, that's why.
They actually have some at Riverwalk.
Is there?
They actually have some at Riverwalk, some groups.
Yeah, and the group over at the 9/11 Memorial.
The temporary or the seasonal?
Exactly. They are thinking about possibly doing something more permanent, and this may be a very good segue into their presentation, so to speak.
Okay.
My reading of the policy was a group could bring something forward with this. That's.
Oh, I
so
think they
the
could.
VFW
I don't
could
know
do
that there's
veterans.
been a lot of interest.
Yeah.
I don't know how much interest in the past there's been from groups, but they certainly would be eligible to do that.
That's wonderful, thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, I got a question.
Commissioner Clay?
On the policy A, where it says the sole discretion of the city, is there any way maybe we could have 2 or 3 things that they might be able to look at rather than saying, well, this is what you're going to get? It just seems, as in the past, there's always been different ways of doing things per se, you know. For example, we had that one great-looking bike that got put down there, or different ways, but as the sole discretion, you know, maybe give them a couple examples of what they're going to have, is my comment on that. That's it.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anyone else? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. We are up to the director's reports. Ms. Tuttle?
Hi, good evening, Cindy Tuttle, Director of Parks and Recreation. It's great to see almost a full commission tonight, so thank you very much for coming out. I know that your time is precious, so we appreciate that you come and serve. A couple of things I'd like to report on tonight. I'm actually, we talked earlier about Ross Yanker's memorial plaque. There is going to be a little ceremony on June 25th. There'll be a remembrance for him at the West Sacramento Recreation Center, starting at 4:30. With all the hoopla happening at 5, and then there will actually be some swimming events there. I don't know if folks, for those of you that do swim, he invented the Brute Squad workout, which is now a nationally recognized workout, and so they're going to be dedicating that particular workout, and some people are going to actually be doing that workout, but, so they'll be swimming starting at 8 o'clock, or excuse me, at 6 o'clock. So we invite all of you to come down. You can come just for food and hoopla, or you can bring your suit and actually join in on the Brute Squad and other swimming festivities, again, for Ross. I do like to ask Tracy Michael to come up and give you an update on several things, the Parks Master Plan, the Southport Levee Project, what is that called? Well, you can tell them. The Assemble Sacramento project and the Clutterweld project. So I'm going to turn this over to her to give you just some really brief updates on those projects that you might be interested in. And then I'll come back.
Well, in April, at your April meeting, we shared with you the request for proposals for the Parks and Open Space Master Plan update process. I'm pleased to report that we received 4 submittals last week, and so we're beginning the evaluation process to be able to make recommendations on a selected consultant so we can initiate that process. So right now, we're hoping to get The update launched in late summer. We have, I think, is also as part of an earlier discussion on the Regional Trails Initiative and our opportunity to use the Regional Trails Initiative to leverage a lot of non-traditional funding sources for trail improvements, including the number of flood improvement projects that are taking place in the region. We were successful as part of that effort in securing some funding through Cindy's work with the Regional Flood Management Planning Group from DWR to fund a study, a feasibility study to explore recreation uses as part of the Southport Levee Improvement Project. So that process has been launched. It's going to be a very expedited process. We received $30,000 to study the recreation potential as part of the Southport Levee project. And so as we have recommendations coming out of that process, we'll be sharing those with you in the coming months. There will be a tie-in between both the Parks and Open Space Master Plan update and the Recreation Feasibility Study with the Southport Levee project with the Bicycle Pedestrian Trails Master Plan update, which is also currently underway. And that came out of the Regional Trails Initiative process as well, and is linked to the work that John was just talking about. So we have all of these efforts right now that have some shared features and objectives that we'll be coordinating to make sure they get fed into all of the applicable documents and planning efforts.
Question on that?
Yes.
Commissioner Harper?
So recently, I was approached and asked about what's going on with the levee stuff down there. And at one point, I thought we had seen some graphics on what the new levee was going to look like, where the old levee was going. The plan was to turn it into trails. That document I can't find anymore. It's not on the website, and I don't know where I saw it. And I know you're about to embark on a process, but the reason why people were asking me is because there's a rumor out there, and who knows where these things start, that the Corps of Engineers are not going to allow any public access on the new levees. And whether or not that's true, concurrent with that is a lack of understanding about what's going to happen with the old levee. And this came from friends who have horses, and our horse community friends, we want to make sure, I think, know fairly quickly they're already feeling encroached upon by all that out there.
Okay.
And then above and beyond the horse issue, there's a lot of folks who ride bikes out there who also now are worried that there won't be access on the new levees because of the federal government. So just bringing that to you.
Do you want me to address that?
Absolutely.
All right. So the map for that, there is a map of the actual flood project, which, as we all know, Village Parkway, north and south, was built as the new north-south connection to replace the existing South River Road. What will happen is there'll be a new setback levee that will be constructed, and portions of the existing levee will be downgraded. They'll actually be removed. And so you will no longer be able to go along South River Road contiguously unless you go down, and they're going to be creating fish habitat and other types of habitats and mitigation for the new project. The new levee, which will be the setback levee, will have a top of levee. It is not going to be paved at this point, but they will allow public access, which would include, walking, cycling with an appropriate cycle, because it's going to be a gravel top. Horses have never been allowed on tops of levees. It is something that we are discussing in the hopes that we might be able to get that restriction lifted, but they're not even technically allowed on tops of levees now. So again, that's a piece that we're looking at, that we'll be looking at as part of this project. But it is absolutely false that they are not going to allow public access on top of levee and even down into some of the mitigation areas. I mean, that's the whole idea of the Central Valley Flood Protection Plan, is the three-legged stool, which is flood, and always flood first, eco, and recreation. And so those three elements working in concert so that we can get people to be able to watch birds, that we can get people to look at frog habitat or garter snake or whatever the case it may be. So what that looks like ultimately is exactly what this feasibility study is going to tell us. What's the highest and best use for recreational elements along that 6 miles of new levee that's constructed? And what can we do with the existing levee based on its, topography and geography and all of that and the ins and outs. So does that help answer your question?
Yeah, no, that absolutely helps answer it. I'm my thinking messed up. But I bet that it's the horse stand on top of levee, the current one, that got
People, yes.
mashed into that. And then
Yes.
also, the work's happening out there. If you guys haven't been out there, there are trees. There are trees that have been removed. You can see where the new levee's coming in. You can see which houses are staying and are going to have a very close neighbor as a levee and those that aren't. So I think, and actually it's wonderful out there right now because the South River Road's closed. So if any of you like to walk or ride bikes, that area is fantastic.
There is a portion, however, I must caution everyone, there is a portion of South River Road that is closed to everyone, bicycles,
Stay off that
pedestrians,
part.
everyone. But,
Open.
but there is other portions of it that are technically closed to through traffic. You might get a car now and then, so I don't want people to be out there and think that's, free willy, but yeah, particularly at the bend, if you go from the McGowan Bridge up and around, that segment is open for cycling and pedestrians, and actually that surface is kind of nice if you have a road bike. And the other piece, this is the largest infrastructure project in the history of the city. So it's very, very exciting. And, this has been we have these strategic summaries every year that are in this chambers and that are voted on by the council. And if you've watched over the last few years, flood protection has always been at the top of that list, and they're actually implementing it now. So it is, you're right, it's a very exciting project. And if you want the map, the person to get hold of is Greg Fabian, but if you send me an email and you really want the map, I can get you one.
And to tell you the truth, what would be great is if there was a half of a web page.
I think there is, but it just could be getting to it. And I'll try to find out, and we can let you guys know.
I mean, I think that would be good, just to dispel the rumor that and actually the way it came to me was, did you hear the federal government's fencing off the new levee? Which I knew was probably not technically correct. I didn't technically absolutely know that, but, we talked through it, and
Yeah.
and I think that there's just little bits of information coming from here and there, and I didn't have anything to actually go to for definitive.
Right. And if you ever have questions like that, you can ask myself or any of our staff, and we'll make sure to get you to the person that can answer that or get you the information ourselves. So, it wouldn't make any sense that we're doing that DWR would give us $30,000 to study recreational uses on a structure that's not going to allow recreational uses.
Understood.
Thank you.
Right?
But again, I don't think that at this point, some of that's widely known.
I don't think it is widely known. People wouldn't think that DWR would be funding recreational studies on flood projects. But again, this directly relates to the Central Valley Flood Protection Plan, which was adopted in 2015 and getting updated, or 2013, or whenever it was, 2012, I don't know, whenever it was, but the three-legged stool. And no one's done the third leg of the stool. So we're the first ones out of the gate. We have a real opportunity here to really determine the future of flood projects. And so it's really critical that we do incorporate those recreational elements for this project. And we are also working collectively through the Regional Flood Management Planning Group, both Tracy and I, because the Elkhorn setback levee is a project that's just outside the city limits, which our residents will be able to benefit from, particularly if there's recreational elements. So people will be able to go over the weir, and there will be a host of recreational opportunities there. Well, it's inherent upon us to make sure that those fit in with what our needs are of our residents, who are probably going to be the most frequent users of that. So we're working on that as well.
And if anyone's been out there, if you go across the McGowan Bridge and turn down the New River Road, you can see where the old levee was, and they punched a hole in it, and it's gorgeous. It's
Same idea of the new features, yeah.
It goes from being an old sterile levee to actually being something that you can tell is gonna flood, and then the flood's gonna go away, and in the summer, you're gonna be able to do stuff down there. It's really neat and interesting, and I'm very excited about the rest of the project. I think it's really gonna change the nature of out there. As somebody who hangs out there a lot, this is what I like to do on bicycles. I think it's gonna draw a lot of folks out there. And that combined with the Clarksburg Trail is really gonna make going out that direction super cool.
When you have the Stone Locks reuse plan that's going on, that again also incorporates recreational elements, so it's really tying all these different recreational elements together and not being duplicative about uses and how does everything interlink and what's the highest and best use for those different pieces so that everybody has, we just had John give a report about, making sure and addressing senior needs and, youth needs and this, so, yeah, it's exciting times. So I'm going to turn it back over to Tracy to finish her update.
Two more projects I just wanted to share with you. Assemble Sacramento continues to raise funds and advance designs for the NEST project, the bike rest stop on the Clarksburg Branch Line Trail. So we continue to work with them. They're doing a great job making progress with the project, and there will be a fundraiser at Bridgeway Lakes this summer dedicated to that project. So we'll have more information for you. Is that in, I don't have the date of that. Is it?
August 13th, I think.
August 13th, okay.
August, and one of your commissioners will be performing.
So make sure to go to that one. So that's exciting. And the Heritage Oaks Park site, the Clutterwald Ropes course, we continue to negotiate, advance the site planning and the financials for that project. The environmental hopefully will get underway shortly so that we can continue to move forward with that project. Any questions?
Any questions? We're good.
Thank you.
Tracy.
Couple more brief items. I don't know if any of you were able to attend the recent State of the City, which was held last week, and partake in listening to the mayor's speech, which did include several elements that this department and your work being recognized and the advancements that we've made over the last year. I think the highlight, of course, for the Parks Department this year were the goats. Everybody loves the goats, and the goats are back. But only for a short time. The 700 herd that you see right now, I think they're down on Stonegate and Village Parkway. The area they were supposed to go to was still too wet and in another community, and so we made a really great deal with them that they allowed the goats to graze in the flatlands that we would normally disc for the same amount of money that it would cost us to disc those fields. So I almost feel like we should get some carbon credits for that, but because we didn't disc the fields. But so they'll be here, but they'll be leaving shortly until next season. The barn, you may have known, the barn has started up their off-the-grid activities on Saturday. Their TIs will be getting underway. Drake's is scheduled to be in late October, early November. But again, off the grids on Saturdays. Everybody goes, why did they move it from Fridays to Saturdays? And the reason being is that construction of the tenant improvements is Monday through Friday. It takes off the grid an entire day to set up. So that would have eliminated one day of the construction cycle for them. And so that's why they moved it to Saturday. But the launch has been very good. And if you haven't been out to off the grid at the barn on Saturday, you might want to go by there one evening and either eat food out of the food truck or have a libation or just go down to see Mill Street Pier as well, which is now opened up. Again, that's the only fishing pier on the Sacramento River, and so if you've not had an opportunity to go see the Mill Street Pier, you'll want to go see that. Sam Cooney does a phenomenal job in keeping the graffiti out of there and keeping it clean, so I would love for you to go see that as well. And then the last thing I'd like to talk about very briefly again is the budget. As you can imagine, staff in all the departments in the city have been working very diligently to bring a balanced budget to the city council. As you know, as you may have heard, if you watched the budget workshop at council, the budget is fairly flat. While we've had some increases, it's not kept up with the cost of living and including very hefty PERS increases for staff, which are completely out of our control, to the tune of about $1 million. The Parks Department was not unscathed in this. We did have to make cuts. We had to make specific program cuts that you may hear about, particularly at the West Sacramento Recreation Center, because the Recreation Center depends on a high volume of part-time minimum wage workers. As we all know, the minimum wage has been raised by the state. And so when you have 150 employees that are part-time, that are minimum wage, that has an impact on your budget as well. And when you don't have increased revenue, you have to make cuts. Paul, I want to really give him a lot of credit. He and his staff were very innovative and were able to keep the cuts to a minimum. They looked at additional ways to raise revenue and to shift some costs to other programs. And so while there were some cuts, we still feel that the level of service that we're able to provide is extremely high for the value. And again, I just want to commend him for the work that he did. The final budget will be going to council tomorrow. I think it's tomorrow, yeah, for consideration. And again, we did, the department heads and the budget committee did deliver we'll be delivering a balanced budget to the council. So I'm happy to answer any specific questions about that if I can, but just kind of want to give you a general idea that we actually, I think we came out okay. No layoffs, so that's always a good thing when you don't have to hand out pink slips.
Very good. Anyone have questions? Quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
Farmers Market at the barn?
Yeah.
When is it starting, or did it start already?
There'll be 4. It used to be every Thursday was the farmers market here in front. However, they're only going to do it once a month now, and so there'll be 4 of them. And do you know the date, Anna, by any chance, of the farmers markets for the Chamber of Commerce at the barn?
It's June 8th.
It's this Thursday, June 8th is the start.
It is wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you guys for all the work that you're doing, and I really look forward to all the activities and the projects that are taking place. Thank you so much.
Oh, we have great staff. We're really, really lucky, so.
And then finally, speaking about staff, we have a new staff member now by the name of Robin Smith. She'll be taking over the clerk, or this position here. Dan Anderson moved on to the fire department, was promoted there, so welcome, Robin. She's been here for a month now.
Welcome, Robin.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy.
Sorry, I wanted to ask a quick question. Sorry.
Commissioner, that's okay.
Thank you for your report, and I do commend you all for being able to balance your budget, not do layoffs. That's excellent. But my question was around, and I know you mentioned that because of the budget, there's been some cuts, but looking at that's the start of summer soon, I haven't been with the city very long, so I don't know the history of it, but has the city of West Sac ever done things like for like movies in the park? I know they do a dive-in at the recreation center, but have there been movies and things? I know they offer that throughout other communities. That was my question.
Yes, so they do movies at the recreation center, and there has been movies out at Bridgeway Lakes Park as well, where they put a big screen up and project movies, yes.
Okay, is that, because I haven't heard about it. Usually on Facebook with other parent groups, I get notifications from other cities like Citrus Heights, McKinley, whatever, but I haven't heard anything about West Sacramento specific yet, and I was just wondering what the effort has been to make that public to parents like myself who want to take my kids out on summer nights.
Have you befriended Mooey yet?
What
Mooey is who tells you these things.
Mooey.
Yeah, Mooey.
Okay.
Mooey's on Facebook, yeah, and if you friend Mooey.
How do you
But there's
spell that?
also, okay, for most city events, we have a playbook, and so those dates are usually set ahead of time, and you can get a playbook. It's also available online, but we also have hard copies of the playbook that list 90% of the programming that's offered through both the recreation center and the community center. So it's not just sporting activities, it's sporting, non-sporting, seniors. It's all of the programs offered through the department, including like the dive-in movies and things of that nature. There's another 10% that probably just, maybe 5% that just kind of happen because somebody comes to us with a great idea. So for example, we're going to be partnering with Bridgeway Plays, who is a nonprofit group here in town that raises funds. They want to do some splash nights at the Splash Park, which is at Bridgeway Lakes Park. And so currently, the Splash Park closes at dusk. Well, they want to keep it open till 8 o'clock at night, because in the summertime, the nights are warm and have food trucks and, you know, a little bit of activity going on later at night into the park. And so we're going to be partnering with them and doing these splash night. And so that's not currently in the recreation book because it's something that a nonprofit brought to the city and said, hey, we'd like to do this. Do you want to partner? We thought it was a great idea, something wonderful to offer the entire community for their kids to come out and play in the splash park later at night. So that would be one that wouldn't, and we'll just have to get the word out either through MUI or whatever other avenue. But we anticipate that as the budget continues to be difficult, that you'll see more and more of these public-private partnerships emerging, such as Assemble Sacramento, Bridgeway Plays, Clutterwall, because that's how we're going to be able to get things done in the community. So it's a very good point that you bring up, that we really will need to think about how we get those messages out to people, because it will be kind of a different form. It's not like we're going to plan a year ahead of time so that it can get in the playbook. So good point, and we'll talk to Paul Hosley, who's our communications director as well, about maybe some alternatives to being able to get those unusual items out into the public.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Murphy.
So the Facebook thing is MUI Armstrong, and it's just got, it's just moo, like moo.
Moo, yeah.
So it's just every day there's lots of park stuff on there with all the stuff you're talking about. And last month there was a picture of somebody dressed as Princess Leia on there.
I wonder who that could be.
The Intergalactic Expo happened, and it was very successful, yeah.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy.
That's it right there.
Okay. Next meeting on the calendar will be
August 8th?
August 8th, Tuesday, 6 o'clock.
Yes.
Okay. Any future item requests? Yes, Commissioner?
I have a comment and then a quick request. First, the comment, I don't know who in the city dealt with Amgen Tour of California that came through a weekend in Sacramento. I'm sure Parks had a piece of it, police did, but it was just an awesome event. If any of you went out and saw it, it was 2 days in a row. I went out and saw the women come through. Actually, we watched the women go out and the women come back. And the next day, we saw the men go out and the men come back, and it was super fun. There was a bunch of people just standing out on the road. We met people we would have never met before, talked with a super cool motorcycle cop. It was a really fun time. And I know for the city to shut down roads and redirect traffic and things like that for an event like this, they probably get a heck of a lot more complaints than they do kudos. Because most of us who think that these things are fun just go have fun and never say anything, and the people who are inconvenienced scream pretty loudly. So I wanted to make sure to publicly thank the city for doing that. I'm partial to the bike events, but I thought it was fantastic. For a future item, and I'm sure this is already scheduled at some point, but I really would love to know where we are in the plan for turning the I Street Bridge into a pedestrian bridge.
I was just thinking that.
I think that's a really interesting thing that Parks is involved in. I know it's on the plan and on the books, but I just don't know how far along we are in making that happen. And looks like somebody does.
The I Street Bridge feasibility study is actually underway, and that's being handled through the Public Works Department because it is a transportation facility, but I'm more than happy. I actually think that would be kind of cool to have them actually come and talk about some of the alternatives that they're looking at. I don't know what the timing of that will be, but we can talk to Chris Doherty and Dennis Ambia and have them come. I think that'd be a great a great
I think
piece.
so too.
Yeah.
Just drove over there today, and it's like, when are they going to move it eventually? Commissioner?
And I'm not sure when the appropriate time for this would be, but I would love to get an update on how the pilot program for the bike sharing is going as well.
Anyone else?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay, call for adjournment.
I'll call for adjournment.
Second it.
Thank you. Commissioner Sandoval called, and Commissioner Clayton second. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you for letting me cut my teeth tonight on this.